Hello again. I'm going to be reading the story called How Full Is Your Bucket? This story was written by Tom Rath and Mary Reckmeyer. Who writes the story? Yes, the author writes the story. So, Tom Rath and Mary Reckmeyer wrote this story. Illustrated by Maury J. Manning. Who is the illustrator? What is their job? The illustrator. Yes, the illustrator draws the pictures. So, Maury J. Manning drew the pictures in this story. This story is called How Full Is Your Bucket? The fancy word for the name of the story is the title. How full is your bucket? What do you see on the front cover of this book? I see a boy and a dog, and I also see a bucket. The title says, How Full Is Your Bucket? So I think that this story might have something to do with this bucket and how much is in it or how full it is. So let's get started on our story. Felix was putting one of the last blocks on his tower when his little sister came in. I want to build with you, she said. Felix scowled. Go away, you're too little. So look in this picture. What is Felix doing in this picture? And what does his sister want to do? So Felix is building blocks in this picture, and his sister wants to build with him. He scowled. That's a word I don't know, so I'm going to go back and read it again to see if I can figure out what that word scowled means. I want to build with you, she said. Felix scowled. Go away, you're too little. What he's saying is not very nice, so I think scowled might have to do with not being very nice. I'm going to look at the picture, and I think it's important to look at his face. So with what is in the text and what's in the picture, I think that he might be scowling. That might be the face that he is making. He scowled, go away, you are too little. So it has to do with the face he's making and him not being nice. I'm big. Stay back, you'll knock it over. I can be very careful. Go play with your baby toys, Anna. And here's Anna. It says Felix, so she's thinking about Felix. That doesn't look like she's really happy with Felix right now. You can tell by her face and what she's thinking about Felix. Thwack! Oh, what did Anna do? Oh my goodness. Anna knocked over his tall tower. Grandpa! Grandpa shook his head. Felix, you just dipped from your sister's bucket. Like everyone else, Anna has an invisible bucket. When it's empty, she feels bad. When it's full, she feels great. Didn't you ever notice your own bucket? Invisible bucket? Sometimes Felix couldn't quite tell when his grandfather was joking. So his grandfather is saying there's an invisible bucket over everyone's head. So invisible means you cannot see it. Let's see if the story tells us more about these invisible buckets. But the next morning when Felix woke up, there it was. A small gray bucket floating above his head. Wow. I want you to show me on your face how you would look and feel if you woke up and there was a bucket right above your head. Yeah, I would look pretty surprised. Oh my goodness, there's a bucket over my head. I've never noticed that before. When Felix came down to have breakfast, his mom was in a hurry. I've got a meeting this morning and it's almost time to go. Anna, sit still. You can see Felix over there trying to help himself. Felix slipped and cocoa weeds scattered across the floor. Felix, yelled his mom, you should have used the stool to reach that. Felix could feel his bucket tip and invisible drops spill out. Drip, drip. Ha ha, Anna laughed as she crunched the cereal with her shoe. Drip. Get the broom and clean that up before you miss the bus, scolded Mom. With the school bus honking, Felix quickly swept up the cocoa wheats and grabbed the last blueberry muffin. But before he could even take one bite, in just a second we're going to find out what happened. But right now I want you to think about how Felix must be feeling. He spilled the cocoa wheats all over, so he's not able to eat those. His sister's laughing at him and crunching them on the floor, so it's harder for them to clean up. Show me on your face how Felix must feel. Felix must feel pretty sad, right? Okay, so he grabbed the last blueberry muffin, but before he could even take one bite, Buster jumped up and grabbed the muffin right from his hand. Drip.
Hey, look at Felix's new backpack. My baby brother has one just like it.
Drip. Psst, Felix. Psst. So these people are talking about Felix. This person was making fun of Felix. Drip.
Watch out, shrimp.
Drip. So every time someone does something that hurts Felix's feelings, a drip of water comes out of his bucket. It was still morning, and Felix's bucket was almost empty. As he watched his classmates walk into the room, he secretly hoped they'd trip and fall. That's what it feels like when you have an empty bucket. So when your bucket's empty, you don't always think the nicest things because you just feel really bad. So sometimes you feel really sad and other times you feel really mad when your bucket is empty. Felix slumped into his seat and waited for something else bad to happen. Mrs. Bumblenickel walked slowly up to his desk and handed him a paper. He could hardly bear to look. Felix, you wrote a wonderful story. Would you please share it with the class? Felix grinned and felt a big drop land right in his bucket. His teacher complimented his wonderful story. He got an A+, so a big drop went into his bucket. So he's feeling a little better right now. The Gigantosaurus Who Wanted a Pet by me, Felix. The class grew quiet. They laughed at all the right places and oohed at the scary parts. When Felix finally read, "The end," everyone clapped. Even Emily, who sat next to him and didn't usually like dinosaurs. Felix felt a whole shower of drops land in his bucket. Plink, drop, plop, drop. Maybe the day wouldn't be so bad. So when his classmates are complimenting him and oohing at his story and clapping when he finished, that helped Felix feel really good. So it's filling up his bucket. I want you to think of a time either in class when your classmates were being nice to you, or maybe clapping when you did something, or at home when someone in your family said something nice to you or helped make you feel good. So I want you to close your eyes for a second and just think about that. And think about how wonderful that felt when you could really tell that someone else cared about you. Oh, that makes me feel so good. Drop, drop. So right here, it says, I love you. And it's from his mom. So his mom left him a note in his lunchbox, so he got a drop from that. This says, team captains today are Veronica and Felix. So since he was a team captain, he got another drop. Nice cow. It's a dog. Well, nice colors there, Felix. So his art teacher's complimenting him. He got another drop. Cool laser ant backpack, Felix. By afternoon, Felix's bucket was nearly full. At recess, when he looked around, Felix suddenly realized that his grandpa was right. Everyone else had a bucket too. Do you see everyone's buckets? Let me help you. Drop. Drop. So this gentleman dropped some papers. Felix helped him pick them up. Here's your baseball. Catch. Thanks, dude. Drop, drop. Hi, I'm Felix. First day? Yes, I'm Amir. Drop, drop. So Felix introduced himself to a new student who was sitting all alone. Look at his empty bucket. And then Felix introduced himself, so he got a drop in his bucket. He was feeling better. Think about how you felt on the first day of school when you didn't know anyone yet, and then people started introducing themselves to you and making you feel better by filling your bucket. The strange thing was that for every drop he helped put in someone else's bucket, he felt another drop in his own bucket. So even when Felix was helping others and filling their buckets, his bucket was getting filled too. When Felix burst in the door after school, he shouted, "You were right, Grandpa! I do have a bucket, and I understand how it works!" Then he saw Anna's torn doll. "Bad dog," he almost scolded. But then he thought, dogs might have invisible buckets too. So instead of yelling at his dog, he thought maybe his dog has an invisible bucket for his feelings too, so he decided not to yell at his dog. "Your doll will be okay, Anna," said Felix. "Mom will fix her." Wah! Until then, do you want to help me build the tallest building in the world with my blocks? And so they did. And they each are filling their buckets because they're being kind to others. Okay. So before we get to the questions that we are going to answer, I want you to think about your invisible bucket. Do we really have buckets on top of our heads that show if they're full, we're in a good mood, or if they're empty, we're maybe sad or angry? No, we don't really have invisible buckets on our head. However, this helps us to think about how we are feeling and how other people are feeling. Because if we're in a bad mood, it might not be easy for us to want to help others. But helping others still helps put us in a good mood. So when we fill other people's buckets, we still fill our own buckets. So I want you to think about that and think about how you can fill someone's bucket. Okay, so our first question is, who is the main character in this story? Who is the main character in this story? I'm going to read this page to help you answer that question. Felix was putting one of his last blocks on his tower when his little sister came in. Felix was putting one of the last blocks on his tower when his little sister came in. Who is the main character in this story? Question number 2. Where does the story take place? This is the setting. Where does the story take place? So I want you to look at this page and think about where they are in this page. Does it look like they're at home, at school, at the beach, or at the movies? All right. So this has all been the same setting so far. They're at the same place. Same place. Now let's look. He's leaving to go somewhere. Oh, now he's somewhere new. So there's 2 settings in this story. So think about where he is. Is he at home right now? Is he at school? Is he at the beach? Or is he at the movies? Okay. At the beginning of the story, Grandpa says that he says, Felix, you just dipped from your sister's bucket. So he took drops out of his little sister Anna's bucket. Now at the end of the story, Felix did something else to Anna's bucket. So I want you to think about at the end of the story, did Felix dip from Anna's bucket or did he fill up her bucket? Okay, and the last question. I want you to think about at least one way you can fill someone's bucket. So since we are learning from home right now, I would like you to think about someone in your family, a way that you can fill their bucket. So maybe you can help one of your family members with the dishes. Maybe you could help them cook dinner. Maybe you could share your toy or read them a book. I want you to think about how you could fill someone else's bucket. Okay. You get extra credit if you tell me whose bucket you filled. So if I want you to just think about how you could fill someone's bucket, but if you send me a message on Dojo or post on our teams saying that you filled someone's bucket and how you filled their bucket, I'll give you extra credit. All right, that's all for our Read Aloud for today.